Hi, it's John and welcome to the channel. It is 1:41 p.m. Thursday, August the 7th with the Big Blue Mug of Coffee. Hope you're having a great Thursday. And wow, it's a special occasion. I never do 3 videos in a day, but it is a special occasion. I wanted to do this because I just watched Pierre Poilievre introduce the Canadian Sovereignty Act. He's here in Calgary. He had a news conference, had a bunch of people behind him. He had the media there. He answered questions, and it was a thing of beauty. It proved to me that Pierre Poilievre is strong and Mark Carney is weak. Strong Poilievre, weak Carney. He slapped around Mark Carney through this whole 27-minute video. I'm going to show you some short clips of it, and even slapped around David Eby from British Columbia a little bit as well. So I'm not going to make this tedious. All I'm going to do is introduce each section and show weak versus strong, and the strong is Poilievre. He was just masterful today. You could have had Pierre Poilievre, Canada, but you got weak Mark Carney. So let's start off right now. Let's find out exactly what the Canadian Sovereignty Act is. Mr. Poilievre, would you take it away?
The reason we are here is to announce the Canadian Sovereignty Act and to make a call to action. A conservative government would have acted more quickly to protect the sovereignty of our country. Under the Liberal government, that sovereignty has been eroded by policies that block our development, tax our people, and make us uncompetitive. The Canadian Sovereignty Act would move us in the opposite direction. It seeks to legalize economic development, reward those who build, protect Canadian innovation, and get shovels in the ground on major nation-building projects between now and March the 14th, the one-year anniversary of Mark Carney taking office.
So as you know, we've got a real problem with housing in this country. First off, let's listen to weak Mark Carney, and then let's let Pierre Poilievre slap Carney around when it comes to his housing plan.
We're getting government back in the business of building affordable homes. Acting as a developer, Build Canada Homes will work with industry to build affordable homes at scale, including on public lands.
On housing, Mr. Carney promised the fastest and biggest buildup of housing since the Second World War, that he would double home building. Since that time, home building has actually gone down in Canada, and according to his own housing agency, it will fall next year and the year after that. It will not even be half of the 500,000 annual builds that he has promised. So far, he's still trying to set up a new bureaucracy with an awkwardly named Build Canada Homes, because he hasn't even set up the office. He hasn't built an office or built the bureaucracy yet, let alone built a single home.
Now let's talk about energy, which is really important to me because I live in Alberta. Mark Carney is really weak on this. He tries to talk strong, but he's really not going to get anything done. It's been discussed on this channel many times before. So let's play Mark Carney, and then we'll go into a very strong Pierre Poilievre, who actually addresses the 9 demands Danielle Smith has of Mark Carney when it comes to Alberta energy.
Because under my leadership, it's time to build big time. Today, I'm announcing a comprehensive new approach to make Canada the world's leading energy superpower.
The Sovereignty Act will legalize pipeline and other major projects by repealing the anti-development law C-69. It will legalize shipping Canadian energy off the northwest coast of BC by repealing C-48. It will axe the industrial carbon tax, something the Europeans are doing, and given that our competitors in America have no industrial carbon tax, it is untenable to force our people and our industries to pay this tax. We will get rid of the oil and gas cap that kills jobs. We will get rid of the ban on plastics, the petrochemical industry that produces our plastics. The plastics themselves are essential, and so are the jobs that go along with it. This, by the way, this plastics ban is not about, it's just saving your straw. It's about saving you about $400 or $500 a year in food that would otherwise go bad because it would not have plastic to preserve it. And we have a wonderful Alberta-based petrochemical sector that contributes to plastics that we need to protect. We'll get rid of liberal censorship laws that prevent our energy companies from talking about their incredible achievements and their environmental stewardship. We will legalize into the future your right to drive a gas or diesel-powered truck or car by repealing the liberal EV mandate. All of this will be in one bill.
We'll take a quick break from Mark Carney, and now we'll slap around David Eby a little bit, the British Columbia Premier, who's on record. I'll show you a short clip here in just a second. Really weak when it comes to committing to any pipelines to the coast of Canada. He always uses the excuse that there's no investment, so there won't be a pipeline. Poilievre is asked about this, really strong on this issue. He refers to it as the chicken and egg situation.
For the pipeline project that Premier Smith is a great enthusiast of, a heavy oil pipeline project, there is no project, there is no proponent, there is no private sector money involved at all that I'm aware of. When Premier Smith crosses those obvious hurdles to get a project done, then let's have those conversations.
Let's start with the chicken and egg problem. So this is the opponents of pipelines are using this very cleverly. They're saying, well, we can't change the rules to allow a pipeline because there's no pipeline proposed. That's because the rules don't allow pipelines to get built. So you have, for example, C69 that, according to the Pipeline Association, means you'll never get one approved. Then you have the energy cap, which means that Alberta will never be able to produce enough oil to put in a new pipeline. And then you have the shipping ban that prevents that oil from going anywhere. And then, you know, the NDP and Liberals say, well, nobody wants to build a pipeline, so we can't approve one. Well, of course, nobody wants to build anything in Canada because the law makes it impossible. Let's get rid of this chicken and egg distraction that the Liberals have imposed. As for Mr. Eby opposing him, and I, with the greatest respect, I have nothing against him personally. I think he's a nice guy, but one man can't block a project. British Columbians want a pipeline. Albertans want a pipeline, Canadians want a pipeline. We can't wait till everybody's on side. I mean, you know, there's some people out there who don't think Elvis is dead. We can't get everybody to agree on any basic fact, even the basic fact that we need a pipeline. So you're going to need national leadership, and yeah, that means that some people are going to protest, maybe chain themselves to a tree, but we have to push through that if we're ever going to get anything done.
So let's get back to Mark Carney and him being weak once again, and then we'll hear what Pierre Poilievre has to say about this. Now, we all know why Mark Carney won't commit to pipelines. I'll play a short clip of that for you in just a moment. He's weak when it comes to this issue. Pierre Poilievre understands exactly why Mark Carney's doing what he's doing. He's asked about it, and he gives a great explanation here.
Now, so far, carbon prices have been applied sparingly. They've been set far too low.
A relentless focus on net zero. It's called the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero for a reason, because we've moved to the relentless logic of having to get emissions down consistent with the carbon budget.
So we can't meet our ultimate objectives, which is to get to net zero emissions. We can't get there unless we do not just have a cap on emissions, but those emissions are brought effectively to zero.
Well, first of all, let's talk about Mark Carney and then the Liberal Party. Mark Carney for the last 10 years, was a net zero, keep it in the ground, green fanatic. He said that he wanted to keep at least half of our oil in the ground. And he believed in, he's testified against the Northern Gateway Pipeline. He supported all of the carbon taxes. He's publicly spoken out in favor of the electric vehicle mandate to ban your gas and diesel-powered cars. Now, he's tried to present himself as some big change because he looks and sounds different than Justin Trudeau, but he has supported all of the same policies. And what he's doing right now is ragging the puck and trying to drag people along into believing that he will one day do something. But he hasn't done anything.
Mark Carney, of course, talking strong when it comes to Bill C-5, which is really a weak answer to our energy industry, to our infrastructure, to major projects in this country. It's a very weak answer to that. Pierre Poilievre addressed this as well, and he told us exactly what he thought of Bill C-5.
The most important economic initiative this country has seen for a long time, you can pick the period of time, and ultimately will be judged by the projects that come, is this bill. This is what unlocks the potential of our country.
C5 is better than nothing, but it won't do anything for the energy sector here unless you also get rid of the nasty 9 laws that Danielle Smith is asking us to end. Like I said earlier, you cannot build an oil pipeline, even if the pipeline itself were approved, if the government is capping the production to prevent oil from going into the pipe, or if the government continues to ban shipping the oil when it comes out of the pipe. So it's not enough to just pass one law that gives himself the power to cherry pick projects. What you actually have to do is get rid of the nasty 9 anti-development laws, and that's what the Canadian Sovereignty Act will do.
Of course, the discussion had to get around to tariffs and Donald Trump during this news conference. Of course, Carney has been really weak on this issue after talking strong about it. I'll play that clip for you in just a moment. This is an absolute beatdown by Pierre Poilievre, who's being very strong when it comes to the tariff issue.
The starting point has to be one of strength. It has to show that we have control of our own economic destiny, has to have a clear plan here at home.
Well, before I talk about our position, I just remind you that Mark Carney has broken his promise on this. He said that he would do dollar-for-dollar tariffs during the election while he was simultaneously lifting those tariffs. And he has made concession after concession to President Trump. He's been bending over backwards for the president and so far has gotten nothing in return. We think that the counter-tariff should be narrowly targeted on the things that will have the most impact on the Americans and the least impact on Canadians. We do this by targeting things that we don't need, can make ourselves, or can buy elsewhere. That will allow us a minimal opportunity cost in seeking the products from other places while increasing the political pressure on the Americans to get a deal that will allow Canada to have unfettered access to the American market.
And then we get to the immigration issue. Mark Carney is weak on this. He talks tough, but his plan will allow hundreds of thousands of more people to come into the country every year. And we have problems here. We cannot afford this. People can't buy houses. The old supply and demand thing gets in the way because you have too many people and too few homes. It all ties in, immigration, a big indication of how screwed up and how broken Canada really is. Carney is weak. Poilievre asked about this, and he was very strong.
We will return our immigration to sustainable levels by capping the total number of temporary workers and international students at less than 5% of Canada's population by the end of 2027.
Well, for anyone who has been deemed inadmissible needs to leave, and they need to be deported. Anyone who commits a crime while they're in Canada, they need to be immediately detained, and when their detention is complete, they need to be deported from the country. We need to track down the roughly 600 criminals that the Liberals have lost track of. That means using all our security agencies to find out where they are, to locate them, arrest them, put them on planes, get them out of Canada. We need to make it clear that anyone who commits a hate crime or an act of violence against an identifiable group that is not a citizen and not a permanent resident needs to be deported from this country. We need to get rid of the incentives for people to come here that are not real refugees. So we need a review of all the benefits that go to people who come as asylum claimants to make sure they're not getting more benefits than Canadian taxpayers get. And those that arrive last should be their cases should be treated first so that they know that they'll be leaving quickly. That will get the message back to the country of origin that if you come to Canada and you're not a real refugee, your case will be heard in a few weeks and you'll be back in your own country. And finally, the overall number needs to go down. Over the next several years, we actually need more people leaving than coming. That's net negative migration.
Poilievre was really, really good in this news conference. Just terrific, as he was most of the time during the election campaign. He looked very strong, pointing out how weak Mark Carney and the Liberal government is. The Canadian Sovereignty Act, it's fantastic. There's an old saying, never trust the intelligence of the electorate. Too many people were too stupid to realize that Mark Carney was weak, not Pierre Poilievre. A link to the news conference in the description. Check it out. There's more in there. There's more slapping around. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. I'll see you in the next one.